Hey, what's up guys, it's MugenLord here, and today we're going to talk about game developers and gaming censorship, because there's two renowned game developers on the east side, Japanese developers, who pretty much are speaking out against gaming censorship. So who are these developers? So before we can get into this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. So we're going to dive into it right now. Now, as I said before, man, we are heading into a interesting point in gaming when it comes to what fans want, and fans are being very, very vocal about what's been going on within the gaming industry as far as censorship is concerned. And this is what gaming journalists do not like. YouTube has become the platform, X has become the platform, or whatever other social media platform that you're on. We are now speaking vocally about it and able to actually talk to the developers and even point out some of the hypocrisy from some developers and even journalists themselves. So this is definitely helping us as gamers to be able to reach out and be able to talk to them. Well, appears that two game developers within the game industry also feel the same way about censorship as much as the gamers do. And who are these developers? Well, we're going to go to Bounty in the Comics, of course. It says that Shadows of the Dam creators, Suda51, which we're going to definitely talk about Suda in another video when it comes to Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. There's a lot of discussion and debate going on, but most of all, Suda51 has received a ton of praise about how they went about the Repop edition of the game. So we'll definitely talk about that in a separate video. And then we have Shinji Mikami, slam video game censorship. Those who do not play games try to prevent people from enjoying the game. Yes, we talked about this. Most of the time where most of this censorship and most of these people who are very, very vocal about, you know, diversity, inclusion, and, you know, the depiction of women and everything like that, most of the time they aren't even playing these games at all. They don't go out and support the games that they're crying about. They want diversity, and you put diversity out there, guess what? No one shows up for it, you know? So we're going to go into the article to see where this is going. So it says, like most people who actually care about video games and not just how they can use it as a platform to signal how good a person they supposedly are, storied Shadow of the Dam creators Goichi Suda51. Suda and Shinji Mikami are not fans of the ongoing attempts, particularly those who made by Japanese governments to censor the medium. It says Suda51, perhaps best known as a director as such titles as Killer 7, Lollipop Chainsaw, and No More Heroes, and Mikami, who players may recognize as the director of Resident Evil 4, God Hand, and Vanquish, offered their thoughts on the topic during a recent interview given to Japanese video games news outlets GameSpark in reflection of the upcoming Hella remaster released on the aforementioned action-adventure collaboration Shadows of the Dam. And these are the two people that they really need to talk to and everything like that. Especially when you see titles like Killer 7 and Lollipop Chainsaw and No More Heroes. You know Suda51, in order for Suda to be the developer that he needs to be, to put out some of those wacky, out there games that he puts out there that has a cult following, like, censorship's the last thing that you need, that this developer needs to be on his back in order to produce the type of games that he has. And then, of course, Shinji Mikami himself also, when it comes to Resident Evil 4, and just, I'm still surprised. I had no idea that he was behind Vanquish, which Vanquish is definitely a good game. But these are the developers that definitely needs to speak out the most, because these are developers who have pretty much submitted themselves within the industry and know how the industry works and want to be able to create and put that vision out there in order for their fans to be able to enjoy what they intended for their creations. So let's move on. It says, following a brief discussion on the improvements made to the Hella remaster compared to the original 2011 version of the game, namely improved textures and keyboard and mouse support, as machine translated by DeepL, the two creators were met by their previous admonishment of content regulation. Speaking to Japanese outlets Game Watch at the time of the original Shadows of the Dam release opened, I feel that the scope of what is allowed in Japan is narrower than it was allowed overseas. Compared to the freedom allowed in other countries, Japan is narrow. In an age when the internet is so widespread, I have a feeling of why are you saying this now? To which they are asked if their current thoughts on the topic were the same as they were back then. In turn, Mikami asserted, My thinking has not changed at all since then. I think it's a strange situation when there are customers who want to enjoy the game with a unique aspect of those who do not play games try to prevent people from enjoying the game by restricting their enjoyment of work through regulations. And yeah, they're right about that. The thing is, these are the only two developers who pretty much kept their beliefs, their core beliefs when it comes to their games. Because you're starting to see a lot of developers starting to flip-flop on some of their beliefs or some of the things that they were for when they were designing the games back in the day, and then now they're putting disclaimers in front of their games saying, you know, that was just a thing of the past, but, you know, we don't have those same beliefs. And it's sad to see that some of these developers are doing that. But Shinji Mikami and, of course, Suda, these guys haven't changed. These guys want to be able to create the games that they want to create. And it's funny that they point out that when it comes to Japan already has regulations on their games. They really do. And that's because of the laws in their own country, but Japan still delivers the games that fans want despite that. But now you start to look overseas. Overseas is starting to have these weird, obscure type of regulations and everything that hampers their vision in when it comes to these games and these releases. And they seem like, what's going on with the changes all of a sudden? And why should we allow people who don't want to partake in this gaming culture that we have? Why are they the ones that's dictating everything that's going on within the gaming industry? Why are you trying to stop the enjoyment of gamers who have always been part of the culture since the very beginning? You know? So as we move on, that's right, added Suda. If regulations are imposed, we have no choice but to respond to them as part of our job. But I always wonder what people who play games would think. And you also got to understand where some of these developers who have good intentions of wanting to give the games to the fans, you have to understand that there are regulations that still has to be followed. If they can't follow that, if they don't follow regulations, there's going to be some penalties to it. There's going to be some repercussions to their company. So a lot of these developers who want to create the games for the fans that makes all these promises about, hey, we're going to try our best not to censor these games. Look at the point of view when it came to Stellar Blade. I'm pretty sure that when it came to Stellar Blade, when it came to the censorship, and in my personal opinion, it didn't really bother me. You already have my opinion on it. It wasn't really that much of a big deal in my case, but I understand the principle behind it. And when it comes to Shift Up and when it comes to Stellar Blade, they were stuck in a rock and a hard place, because I'm pretty sure that Shift Up had, you know, put everything in their power to have the game release as intended, but then you have to look at Sony and what Sony demands, but since they are in a partnership with Sony, and Sony pretty much has the last say of what goes onto their platform, you know, after they made that deal. So you have to understand which position that they're in. Yes, it's going to piss off the fans and everything, but you got to look at the position that some of these developers are put in when it comes to working underneath these regulations. These are regulations, and some things have to be followed unless they go out and be independent. And when they go out and be independent, now they have to rely on their own funds, or they have to rely on the fans to come out and actually support them. And that's where the problem comes in, because there's some people who claim that they want, you know, no censorship in their games. They want, you know, the true like nature or the true intentions of these developers when it comes to developing their games. And then when they announce these games, a lot of people don't come out and support it. So they're kind of like what we have to do. You know, see, there's some compromises that has to be made. So, for example, he continued, if a lot of people buy the PC version of this game on Steam because they want to play it without restrictions, it would be a bit sad, even though it is available on a variety of platforms. It makes me wonder what the restrictions are for. Who are these restrictions aimed at? I feel that, at the very least, they are not aimed at the customers who plays. So to this end, Mikami then raised the example of Dead Space, which at the time of its initial release could not be released in Japan due to regulations. So if you wanted to play it in Japan, you had to go get the overseas version somehow. At that time, I had the opportunity to talk with people at the development studio in the US. The original Resident Evil director recalled, what I still remember vividly is that some of them were in tears saying we couldn't release the game in Japan after all the hard work we put into it. I can say that this about the work I was involved in. I can say this about the films that I was involved in. But I'm not going to grotesque or splatter films just because I want to express cruelty. I use them as accents in direction of the film. This is a difficult issue, Suda further noted, but it would be great if they could create a 0x rating on top of 0Z, the Computer Entertainment Rating Organization, otherwise known as Japanese answers to America's ESRB, or Europe's PEGI system, so that the expression of the overseas version could be used in Japan as they are. So yes, they're saying that pretty much if there's some way they can use the rating system to get around a lot of these hurdles and everything. But yes, these are forms of expressions for the developers. And you also, I never thought about it, like, how does that feel when a developer can't express themselves or can't allow certain things or some of their games be put out there and released to other regions? So I never really thought about that. So to this end, their host then inquired, wouldn't it be quite burdensome to create 2 versions of the game, one for overseas and one for Japan? Prompting Suda to confirm, you are right. It is really hard work because we have to prepare and produce 2 versions of the game. Now, this is the thing. Suda, I think did, I haven't bought the game, but I see a lot of people, they have their criticisms, but a lot of people really enjoy Lollipop Chainsaw Repop, where they have 2 versions of the game. You either play the original or you either play the censored version. Now, yes, it's definitely hard work. There is technically 2 different versions of the game, but if we're going to go down this end where we're constantly censoring games, constantly putting these rules and regulations, I know that it would probably cost more, and it would be a lot more development work. But if that is the case, I would like to see more games have 2 different versions, so it can appease to both crowds, it can appease to the regulations, and it can also appease to the fans who actually want to see the game in its full glory, or the developer's full vision. And I think we should start seeing that. Censored and non-censored version. You can be able to toggle it on and off. I think that would be perfect for that. So, as we continue, for this remastering, we had to merge the 2 versions that were being developed at the same time, he recalled. And the amount of work that was involved was tremendous, and it had such an enormous impact that the development period was extended. Yes, this will extend the development period. You also got to understand that this is not something that's just easy. Oh, we can just remove this and then for this version and then include that for that version. No, there's a lot of work that has to be put into this, and it would cost more money. So, also about development time, would this also increase the prices of games over time if they decide to start going that route to having 2 different versions? That's something to also think about and take under consideration. So it said at this point, Suda declared, anyway, Japanese gamers who want to enjoy this game without any restrictions should buy another copy on Steam. In response, GameSpark interviewer asked, I was a little concerned earlier, but this version of Shadow of the Damned Hella Remastered that will be distributed on Steam, the unregulated version, to which Suda outright confirmed, yes, it is adding, you can play the same content as the international version. As this particular point of discussion grew to a close, the interviewer ultimately laughed, you have no choice but to buy it on Steam, prompting Suda to follow the joke. No, you see, we made it so that you can play it on any platform, so please buy all versions. So this is the only way they can be able to get around this, is that in order for you to be able to experience some of these uncensored or the fully realized version of the games, you're going to have to get 2 versions. So if you want it on a console, you want to deal with whatever the censored version is. But if you want to be able to play it in its fully realized form, then you would have to get it on the PC, which nowadays PC has always become the better option anyway, because not only that you're going to get the uncensored version, you're also going to get mods, you're going to get all kinds of other things that you can add to in order to make your gaming experience even more fun and everything. But that's pretty much it when it comes to all this. Like, what are your thoughts on this whole entire situation when it comes to the censorship in gaming? And what do you think about Shinji Mikami and Suda's approach of how to be able to maneuver to get around some of these regulations? Because, you know, as a gamer, we only see what the developers are doing, but we don't understand what the developers are going through behind the scenes with some of these developers. Like you gotta understand, these are not like the Dustborn or the Concord developers who are on board with the censorship or on board with these designs for the modern audience. You also gotta understand some of the developers who have no choice. They want to be able to create the games that they want to create, but they have to follow the rules. They have to follow the guidelines. And yes, going independent is the key, but they also take under consideration will people go out to support them if they decide to go independent and use their own funds and everything like that? And will that support from that community be enough to allow them to be able to create the game they want and survive as a company? So there's a lot of give and take when it comes to this, and I think this is a discussion that needs to be had between developers and the community itself. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think? How do you think they should approach, you know, censorship moving forward? Should there be two different versions where you have the uncut version and the censored version for most of these game releases in the near future? I think this would be an interesting discussion in the comment section. So if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe button for more gaming content here on this channel. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.